For 6.3, it's a graph of a line using intercepts. The intercept definitions were already explained in a previous video. So x-intercept is, I'll do this in yellow, x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. That is when y equals 0. And again, we talked about this definition in the previous videos. So we've got y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, and that's when x equals 0. So on this graph here, it says state the x and the y-intercepts. So the y-intercept is this one, that's the green, and then the x-intercept is this one right here, that's the yellow. So they're just asking you to state that and then to state the slope. So the slope here, we're going to state the slope as well. So we'll find that in a minute, but let's first state our answers here. So this is going to be my x-intercept. This is my x-intercept is at, you can say x-intercept is 8, or you can say 8, 0. It's the same thing. And my y-intercept is 3, which is the same thing as 0, 3. Right, so you can state it as a coordinate, or you can just state it as a value. So y-intercept is 3. The slope of this is going to be the rise and the run. So you want to do the rise and the run. You have two different ways of answering this. So if you want to do it from the graph, you can tell me the rise and the run, but you have to show your work. So show proper steps. Okay, just calculating it doesn't work. So if you want to use the rise and the run from the diagram, then I would do this, do a little triangle and say this rise is -3. So it's down 3. So from this point, you're heading down 3. And my run is +8. So to the right 8. So from that point, it's down 3, right 8. So then you would say M equals, and you would use the words rise and run. That's telling me to go to the graph and read this and this to get to this. So you need to show the proper steps, right? If you're going to use your graph, you have to have it a labeled graph and then this. On this side, I need this to be a lowercase m, lowercase m. You have to have that in your formula, and you're going to state rise and run. Then I look at your diagram and go, ah, that's where you got the information from, and then you can say it's a -3/8 slope. Just stating it doesn't work, okay, unless it's a question where we say no work needs to be shown, and then you just write your answer. But if we want steps, then you have to do proper steps, which is labeling your diagram and then writing your conclusion here. So you would show this and then this. If we say no steps are necessary, then that means you can just go to the answer. There's another way that you can do this question, though. So if you didn't want to do it this way, there's two different ways to answer this question. So I'm going to say or. The other option is to take these 2 points, so you don't do the rise and run on it. I'm going to write this as a coordinate. So this is 0, 3, and this is the coordinate. Oh, I already have it written. Sorry. I have it written down. So you can take the coordinate. Sorry, it's right here, and I have this one as a coordinate. You can use those 2 coordinates and do this. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, because you actually have the x and y values. So you can do x1, y1, x2, y2. So it's up to you. Don't do both answers. Just choose one or the other. So if you do it from the graph, you're labeling your graph to say, I got my rise and run here, and this is my information. So if you want to do it on the graph, make sure it's a labeled graph. We need to see the labels. Then your answer. If you don't want to do the rise and run counting way, then you can do it using the coordinates. Both ways are great. Some people just prefer this one. Some people prefer the graph. Both ways are great. You cannot do this way if we don't give you the grid, though. So if we don't give it graph, you have to use the formula. Okay, but here, so pretending I'm going to use this, will be y2, so it'll be 0 minus 3. x2 would be 8 minus 0. So that would get me 0 minus 3 is -3, and that's 8. And look, we get the same answer. Okay, so you have 2 different choices there. All right, let's try this again. This one here, again, you have two choices of answering it. I have my y-intercept. So my y-intercept is 2, which is also, you can write it as a coordinate. That would be 0, 2. Here, my x-intercept is negative 2. And again, you can use it as a coordinate. So up to you. We know that this is a negative slope because it heads to the right down, right? You can see that's why I got a negative. For this one here, we know it's a positive slope, which is why it's heading up. Right? So if you want to do the rise and the run, you have to make sure you're counting from one square right to up to, or you can use the coordinates. So it's up to you. Okay, I'm going to try, which one would we like to do this one? I guess I'll do the rise and the run. So if I'm labeling my right angle triangle, I would do my rise is 2 up from this point, so start at a certain point, and then my run would be 2 to the right. Some people say my run is negative, but remember from this square, you're going right 2, and then you went up 2. So right 2, up 2, right 2, up 2. So don't take the coordinate. It's not the coordinate. It's not negative 2. It's right 2, up 2. So if that confuses you and you're like, oh shoot, I was counting negative 2, then you have to do it this way with the coordinates. Okay, but you should be able to say, from this square, I went right 2, up 2. So positive 2, up 2. Then if you're going to do it that way, you can do m equals and say rise over run. That tells me to look at your graph, to look at this, and you say, okay, I labeled it. My rise is 2, my run is 2, which gets me, reduce that, it's 1. So you must reduce it. Whenever possible, you want to reduce it to a 1. It's a slope of 1. Okay, so don't count the point, it's counting how many squares. So from this dot, you went to the right 2, up 2, right 2, up 2, right 2, up 2. So it's right 2, which is positive, up 2, which is positive. If that confuses you again, then you have to do it like a coordinate. So you would use the two coordinates, which would be negative 2, 0, and this coordinate here would be 0, 2. You would use those coordinates and put it in here, and you could do it that way. So it's up to you. Okay. I won't do it two different ways, but I think that you can maybe follow that part. You can try it again on your own. I'm going to move on to C and D. C and D are the special cases. C and D are the special cases. So C and D are special cases. These special cases, I'm going to star them. I call them special cases because they're the horizontal and vertical. They don't follow the y equals mx plus b. They just are more simple. So this is the y value. So look, it's the y value is 5, and it's always going through the y value. This one here, the x value is negative 3, and it's only going through the x value. So the equation of these, say, oh wait, what am I answering? Oh, shoot. X-intercept, y-intercept, and slope. It's not asking for the equation. So do you know what always happens is that because you're so used to doing the equation, this is a typical mistake, is that you give the equation of the line, and you get no marks. So you have to read the question. So go all the way back up here, read the question, state the x and y intercepts, and state the slope. It's not asking for the equation. So frequently you're doing all this stuff and you start to not read the question. You have to read the question, otherwise you lose the full marks for this answer. So it says state the x and y intercept. So this is asking for the x-intercept. The x-intercept, there is none. The y-intercept is going to be 5. Or you can say y-intercept is, you can say 0, 5. It's up to you. Okay? And then the slope is slope m equals 0. So the slope is 0. Or you can say slope is 0. All right? So that is really, really important. Make sure you read the question. It's such a waste of marks because you understand the concept, but it says state the x and y intercepts and state the slope. It doesn't ask you to state the equation. So you have to read the question. This is only stating it, not writing the equation. So same with this one. The x-intercept for this one is negative 3. Some people write it as negative 3, 0. We would accept both usually. And then my y-intercept is none, right, because it doesn't go through the y-axis. and my slope is considered to be undefined. So don't give me the equation. That's not what it's asking. So even if you're giving me something that's right, it's still wrong because you're not answering the question. That's like saying if I said, what's your first name? And you said my first name is Margaret and my last name is Zen and I like puppies. You go, but wait, I didn't ask you that. I asked you these things. So answer only the question asked. So giving extra doesn't make it right. It makes it strange, and also you lose marks. So I only, in this one, asked you x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope. So only answer that. Do not give the equation. I want x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope, x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope. Okay, not what the equation is. So if you answer too much or too little, it's wrong, right? So if I said, what is your first name, but you give your first and last name, it's still wrong. It might be right, but it's also wrong, so you will lose marks. Okay, so make sure you answer the question asked. Can I keep going on this video here? Determine the x and y intercepts. Actually, I'll start a new video. So that's the end of this video at the end of this page here.